Hello, my name is Caitlyn and I'm a senior studying K-6 education at the University of South Alabama. Throughout the past 4 months, I have had the opportunity to develop a case study on one of the students I worked closely with. Today, I will be presenting this information to you. The student I have worked with and observed for the past 4 months is a little girl named Margaret. She is 10 years old and in 5th grade. Margaret has a grand personality and is always smiling. Margaret lives with her mother and stepfather. She is the proud owner of 4 pets. She has 2 dogs, 1 cat, and a turtle. You can tell by interactions with her mother and just by the way she talks about her that she's in a very loving and stable home. However, I don't think Margaret receives a lot of the attention. She has 2 younger brothers, both of which have autism. One of the brothers is very mildly autistic, and the other is on the severe end of the spectrum. Margaret does not have any long-standing health issues other than she wears glasses to see objects far away and to read stuff on the board. She's generally very healthy. She missed about a week and a half of school back in October due to having the flu, and that took her a while to get over, but other than that, she is always healthy and at school. Margaret has many strengths, but the first one that comes to mind is her performance in science. She is instantly engaged when a science lesson begins. She loves science and just is excited to get started with it every day. She also met her AR goal for first quarter. This was a really big deal for her because she struggles in reading. Right now, she's on track to meet her goal for second quarter as well. She loves science, like I said earlier, and is in EYE club at her school. She wants to build robots one day. She also follows directions. This makes her a great student in our classroom, and she's able to lead by example to others. Also, if you ever watch her, you will see that she's a hard worker. She is one of the most hardworking students I have ever had the pleasure to work with. She never gives up, and she's not afraid to ask for help, which is a huge benefit to her. She's also a kind student. She's a great friend to other students in our classroom. She's always smiling and encourages every other student in our classroom. And she's also right there to tell them great job when they do their best. Margaret's interests include her pets, which are 2 dogs, 1 cat, and a turtle. She says that only 3 of them are normal. She also used to have 3 hamsters, which she talks about all the time and loves them very much. Margaret enjoys playing volleyball with her team and going to tournaments. Science is her favorite subject, and she hopes to build robots one day. She likes to watch a lot of videos on YouTube about building robots and also likes to do digital simulations online. When she's at home, she loves to play Minecraft every chance she gets. Margaret is currently below grade level in every area. Even though she works hard every day, she still seems to fall behind. Her biggest obstacle is reading. She has very little to no phonemic awareness. This really hurts her in every aspect of school. Her writing is on about a 2nd or 3rd grade level. Most of her sentences have huge grammatical errors, and she's dependent on a word book. This is such a negative aspect of her learning because she is always focused on finding a word and seeing how to spell it before she writes it down. However, usually just by saying the word or hearing it, she can't decide what the first letter of the word is to even find it in her word book. She also struggles with math because of her multiplication facts. She was strong in mathematics until they moved on to multiplication, and since she has never learned her multiplication facts, she continues to fall further and further behind because 5th grade math is accelerating quickly. She uses most of her time in class to figure out the multiplication when she first starts a problem, and that takes up all of her time, and the multiplication is usually a very small step in the problem. Margaret was placed in PST when she was in 3rd grade because she was falling behind in reading. Shortly after in fourth grade, she was tested for special education eligibility. Her low IQ score gave her access to special education services. Margaret goes to the resource room for about 30 to 50 minutes per day, depending on the schedule. She always receives the first delivery of a lesson in the general education classroom, then second delivery or intervention in the resource room. Margaret has never been placed on a behavior intervention plan. She has always followed directions, worked hard, and has been a good example to other students in our class. Margaret was observed in 3 different settings: the general education room, the lunchroom, and the resource room. She was observed during a grammar lesson in the general education classroom. She began taking notes like the other students, following along with the lesson. When I walked over to see how her notes looked and what she had picked up from the lesson, I noticed there was only one unfinished sentence. She had began doodling soon after she started taking notes. When she was called on, she replied that she was confused. She went up for her small group lesson and worked with the teacher during independent practice. I was concerned that she is not reaching her full potential because she cannot keep up with the notes, and when she's trying to take notes or when she starts drawing, she fails to pay attention. She tried very hard and was able to understand the lesson at the small group intervention. When she was observed in the lunchroom, she was a social butterfly. She sat with both boys and girls from our class. Margaret was engaged in conversation and was included by others. Throughout their conversation, Margaret would say things completely off topic. The other students would generally just ignore it and keep on going, but this made me concerned with her social skills. She can't stay on topic, and she'd throw out sentences that had nothing to do with what they were talking about. When she was observed in the resource room, Margaret was like another completely different person. She was engaged in the lesson and was ready to answer questions. However, there was only 4 students in this setting, and they were expected to pay attention and answer questions. It concerned me that she was not disengaged in our general education lesson, but in the resource room, she could easily call out questions. The teacher also explained it very explicitly and had notes printed for her to follow along with. Margaret's social strengths is that she's very vocal and can hop right into a conversation with her peers. She is kind and compassionate to other students. When students were asked to pick their best friends and people they wanted to be friends with, Margaret was chosen by both general education peers and special education peers. She is liked by both boy and girl peers in her classroom. Her positive attitude makes it easy for her to approach others and makes others feel welcome. Her main social challenge is that it's hard for her to stay on topic during conversations. Margaret has a hard time discussing lessons with other students because usually she did not understand the lesson. Also, she has a hard time communicating through written response. Margaret struggles while reading and writing. Her note-taking prevented her from paying close attention to the lesson. She also struggled with organizing ideas from the text. Her lack of understanding of math, multiplication facts, held her back from her true potential. So some effective intervention strategies we used were we provided her with printed notes before a lesson. This allowed her to have information ready to go. She could follow along, and then later she could put it into her notebook to study with. The printed notes allowed Margaret to be the same student in the general education classroom as she was in the resource room. She was also giving various graphic organizers during reading. These were either really successful or failed completely, depending on what kind of text she was presented with. With small group lessons, we followed the Sunday system program. Margaret was able to study each letter and sound while practicing fluency, spelling, and listening. This helped her gain more phonemic awareness. Her spelling is beginning to improve, and she has left her word book behind. This was something we were very proud of, and it's really helping her. She can finish assignments quicker, and words are starting to make sense to her when she spells them and when she reads them. Margaret also began practicing her multiplication facts every morning before PE. She was given flashcards to keep at home to practice. She is now able to finish a multiplication sprint in 7 minutes as opposed to 13 minutes back in August when she started. She is gaining more and more knowledge in math now that she can keep up. Margaret needed additional special interventions. We chose an intervention that would benefit the entire class. It worked so well, we began using cooperative learning groups in our classroom every day. They were used for science, social studies, reading, and math. Margaret was paired into groups based on her level. We had another person that was on her level, and the other two students were a little above her. Either myself or my CT worked with their group until they were ready for independent practice. On lessons they could do on their own, we were just there to guide the conversations and answer any questions. This time spent in the group gave Margaret time to understand all of the directions that were asked of her and gave her extra time to ask any questions. These questions were usually answered by her peers. We didn't have to do much. They worked together really successfully. Our groups really worked out great in our classroom. We would not have changed one thing. My teacher loved it, and now it's a daily occurrence in her classroom. I would have to say the most important thing Margaret taught me was patience and perseverance. She came to school every day and never quit working hard. She never complained if she did not understand something. She just asked for help. It was almost a month after we started the Sunday system that Margaret began to improve. She was patient and never did less than her best during a lesson. I am so proud of the way she worked. She worked tirelessly and worked hard at all times. Margaret is a fantastic student with amazing work ethic. I think we could all learn something from her. I hope you enjoyed my case study, and thank you for watching.